Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of Circuit 42. My name is Ian. This is my fellow host, Michael. I am stuck aboard the Sulaco. He has abandoned me, which makes me sad, really. He's just there with his spinny fan, his giant bulbous microphone. I'm just here, possibly gonna die. How's it
Game
make
over,
you feel,
man.
Michael?
Game over.
Well, oh wait, no, I'm not on this. Wait, I'm not on the Sulaco. I'm on the Nostromo. So
Yeah.
even less chance of me surviving.
You're pretty much fucked.
Yeah, I saw a cat and I just yelled at it and it ran away. So I'm pretty sure I'm okay.
Stay away from the drippy ceilings if you
Oh, okay.
can.
The
Yeah.
and the giant chain ceilings with water leaking in front of them that they
Yeah.
have for some reason in science fiction movies.
Yeah. And by the end of this episode, Ian is going to be in his little space undies fending off a xenomorph. So keep
Nice free.
watching.
That's only on the OnlyFans, man.
Oh shit. I didn't know Ian was getting down like that. But ti times are tough. Just came
Yeah,
back from
gotta keep them water bottles.
yeah.
Gotta keep my water bottles, you know.
I just came back from an expensive vet trip, and so I might be on Feet Finder soon. So watch out for
Well,
that.
there you go. Okay, he's got those Uma Thurman Kill Bill feet.
Yeah,
Pretty sure someone will pay money for that, maybe. So,
yeah.
same guy.
Quentin's gonna be hitting me up.
It's like that hole in The Simpsons where with the nude pictures of Whoopi Goldberg in it at the bottomless pit.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's where those photos are gonna end up.
I'm
Just
sure it's fine.
saying.
It'll be okay.
So before I get, I'm assuming saved for on the Nostromo. Um, Apparently we are
It's,
here to talk about alien movies. You told me you were like the only way you could watch these with the right atmosphere is that both of us went to the Nostromo and we watched the movies there. And then I see that you're here, which is kind of fucked up. Not gonna lie.
well, I'm not gonna lie about your chances, but you have my sympathies.
You get out of here, you stupid hobbit. So, speaking of stupid hobbits, let's talk about the first Alien movie. Directed by Ridley Scott and written by personal crazy man Dan O'Bannon, Alien is straight up one of the best science fiction horror movies ever made. If one not one of the best science fiction movies I've ever made.
It really is, man. We both seen these movies like a lot. I did a rewatch. You were telling me before that you had Alien on the back in the background while you were working.
Yeah, I know.
As I was rewatching Aliens, it doesn't get old. The way that it's shot is like so atmospheric. It sells it so fucking much.
The
Like
soundtrack, man. The soundtrack is seriously one of the best movie soundtracks ever.
soundtrack is great. The score is great. The set design, it looks really good. Everything about that part just like still holds up. Obviously, we still got like some what's this early, late 70s, early 80s, like computer type. So that's kind of like,
I love it because it adds to it.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I loved
So,
about Alien Isolation. The fact that they made a point to bring that back. You know,
yeah. And at the end of the day, like you can still kind of like rationalize it. Like looking back, like as we're going to get into the other movies, this first movie is just about like some space truckers, basically.
let's talk about something kind of crazy with this movie. Um, Basically, everyone in this movie was a star or building actor at the time, except for Sigourney Weaver, which is insane when you think about it. Because like if you look at it, it's basically like a who's who of movies. I mean, the fact that you have Tom Skerritt, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holm, Yaphet Kotto, the man with the best name of all time, and of course, not necessarily a giant star, but Balaji Badejo, the actor who played the alien. But Sigourney Weaver at the time was not a hugely well-known actress, and it's kind of crazy how her career really blossomed with the Alien franchise. Kind of like perfect comparison is Jamie Lee Curtis with Halloween.
Yeah, they both had that final girl energy that just propelled them, and they just really sold the terror through their performances here. Um, and it really did kind of the fact that they were relative like newcomers kind of like undercut because like you had like Tom Skerritt. This was kind of you expect that like back in the day. you get the guy to be, the one, the hero, the one to take down the alien. But at the end, it ends up being Ripley and Sigourney Weaver.
Well, I mean, the fact that the characters were written to not have any gender, to not have any specified genders for their specific characters, and the names were that's also the reason they use names are almost more like call signs than actual names because they were meant to have names that you could give to anybody.
Yeah.
And it's it's one of the things as you look at Dan O'Bannon. Are you familiar with Dan O'Bannon's other work?
Let's see here. Let's do. I got some stuff pulled up. Dan O'Bannon. What's else?
Dan O'Bannon is iconic for those of you who don't know. Dan O'Bannon helped co-create the movie Heavy Metal. Dan O'Bannon wrote Return of the Living Dead. Dan O'Bannon was one of the scriptwriters for Total Recall. Dan O'Bannon, he's just a little bit of everything. It was, if you know the movie Blue Thunder, that's by him. Dan O'Bannon co-wrote the directorial debut of John Carpenter with Dark Star, which was a college film that it got picked up by a studio because of the production. They gave them more money, and because they ran out of money near the end, the alien that they fight at the end of the movie is clearly a beach ball.
Oh, he did Screamers, which I liked a lot, and is totally like a hidden gem.
Oh, and like two of the best Toby Hooper movies, Life Force and Invaders from Mars.
I just saw Life Force for the first time.
Now, here's a funny thing. Really easy way to figure out if you saw the good version of Life Force.
Okay.
That version is in every version.
All right.
There's a very I can only play a little bit of this. I don't want to get copyright. Um, Let me see if I can pull up the soundtrack. I'm not thinking about what you're thinking about. I am thinking about what you're thinking about. I am a classy gentleman with classiness and such.
Uh-huh. No, I was watching it, I was checking it out, and I was really kind of like struck by like how similar some of the some of the aspects were for Alien and the Alien franchise, and thought it was pretty interesting, like how it actually got down to Earth and what happened from there. What
Okay.
what
I'm gonna play a little bit of the music. Tell me if this was the theme in the version that you saw.
let's see.
That's a pretty fucking epic soundtrack, right?
That's a really nice soundtrack. I
Okay.
don't remember if it was part
In the
of the
American
version that I
theatrical cut,
watched.
they cut the music out entirely and they had basically a weird hissing synthetic soundtrack instead.
I want to say
Because
it
Canada
was the
makes all sorts
latter.
of good decisions.
It was well, it's whichever version is on Amazon Prime. That's
I
what I
think the
was
version of
watching.
Amazon Prime is the director's cut. I have it on Blu-ray, so I'm like, I'm good. But and but yeah, Life Force is a really good movie. And back to Alien though, although Life Force actually ties in a lot of ways, weirdly enough.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
and same special effects person who did Life Force did a movie called Star Wars.
what's that?
I don't know, never heard of it. It's the franchise that never ends, goes on and on, my friend. Just like Aliens.
So, Ian, what's your earliest memory of watching Alien?
Oh, I'm gonna tell you right now. I remember when the Aliens action figures came out when I was a little kid, and I had
Mhm.
no knowledge of the aliens. I was like, these look awesome. And then, so my family, I told my parents when I was 9, I want to go watch Alien. I want to watch Alien. Can we go to the video store and get Alien? And so we went to the video store. We got the movie. And I don't know if like, I see people now who are like, "Oh, younger viewers think it's slow," and I'm like, "Nah, you're just stupid." I was 9 years old, and I'm just fine. I'm watching this movie. I'm held in that entire damn time. And when that face hugger comes out, holy shit! Here's a funny thing: the face hugger got me, but the thing that actually I remember scaring me more was actually when it. Not, no, no, it was a face hugger when it jumped out onto Kane that actually got me more than anything. That left a bigger impact on me than the chest burster, weirdly enough. Because at that point you're building very slowly and very atmospheric, and then all of a sudden it's a "Pah!" You're like, holy shit, this is how you do a jump scare. Because they're not fucking throwing a cat at the screen. Thank God for the cat in this movie. Um, but they're not throwing a cat at you. They're just actually building up to this really frightening moment. And you know shit's gonna go down when you see the face hugger, which is literally some raw chicken and two hands of rubber gloves moving around. But you know what? It's like one of the most creepiest looking things ever. That is actually how they did that, by the way. That is raw chicken, like raw chicken breasts, and like hands in rubber dishwasher gloves. No, latex gloves. It's literally hands in latex gloves and raw chicken, which is like one of the weirdly creepiest things ever when they actually create the effect. But yeah, that was my first memory. So you know how when you're a kid, you always have like all the friends your age, but then you have the neighborhood kid who's younger, but you're still friends with the neighborhood kid. Me being an 8 or 9 year old, being like, this movie's cool. I'm gonna go to the neighbor kid who's like 3 years younger than me. So like 2 or 3 years younger than me, like 6 or 7. I'm gonna put the movie on for them too. I'm like, check out this movie.
How
And
did
he
that go
loved the
over with
damn
his
movie.
parents?
It
How did
scared
that
the
go over with his parents?
well, he ended up getting to rent Alien 3 on the Super Nintendo later, so it must not have been too bad. Seriously though, that was one of the best fucking video games ever was Alien 3 on the SNES. Um, I was always a Sega kid because Sega do what Nintendo don't.
Mhm.
Just saying. Um, but yeah, that was a one game where I'm like, "Ah, why does the Sega version suck?" But
I think I did play the Sega version at one point.
but yeah, seeing that movie and renting it from the video. Do you remember Video Power Store in Arizona?
I think so, yeah.
Renting it
Yeah.
from the original Video Power Store. That was like my first exposure to Alien. And then later on, we had you know how like the whole movie collector, physical media collector, I know nothing about this at all, where they just like get all their favorite things, just obsess over them, and put them on a shelf, and have tons of things everywhere, and it's just their thing that they have because reasons. You know how that's
Yeah.
basically become more and more of a thing now, especially with the internet and people who don't actually watch their movies just want to put them on shelves to show them off. Just saying. Um, well, I we had a family friend in South Korea who they had every movie on VHS that you could think of in like the late 80s, early 90s. Their house was basically a video store, and it was how I first saw Labyrinth. It was how I first saw Goonies. It's how I first saw all these different movies was because we would literally just borrow the videotapes from there because when you're in South Korea, unless you're shopping on the military base, the video rental store is mostly just bootlegs. Now, this is not now South Korea. This is early 19, this is 1990, 1991 South Korea, like before the economic recession. I mean, no, during the economic recession, that was like 6 years where they thought the Olympics was going to carry over. But this was when you would find have secret passages in stores to have like bootleg merchandise and Folexes. This was definitely 90s South Korea, not 2000 South Korea. Um, so the video stores mostly sold bootlegs or Dragon Ball Z tapes with no subtitles. Which is weird because we were in Korea. But so this was the way we basically rented movies. And then they ended up moving to Arizona, so did we. And I ended up watching Aliens that day and being like, this is the coolest movie I've ever seen. Because think about it, when you're a 10-year-old kid and you see the movie Aliens, that is the coolest movie in the world.
Yeah, it really is.
And then I watched Alien 3 for a little bit. And I'm like, this is boring. And I turned it off because I was 10.
Yeah.
Sadly, we have an entire adult audience of 10-year-olds, apparently. So even the director's cut, which is significantly better. Okay, assembly cut because Dave Fincher will not never talk about that movie again. That and The Keep. No, that's Michael Mann made The Keep, not David Fincher. But yeah, that was my exposure to Alien 3. If this is boring, turn it off. And then eventually I watched it later and I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty good. And then Alien Resurrection, of course, I saw in theaters, and I'm like, well, I liked it initially, and then I got older and I'm like, this is kind of stupid. And then, well, Prometheus. It's fucking awesome. And then Alien Covenant. It's fucking trash. And then Alien Romulus, who I really like, but a lot of people don't because it's new. also because of one of the worst lines in the entire franchise. But we'll get to that later. What about
Yeah.
you?
Let's see. I feel like I want to say I watched Aliens before Alien.
Oh, dude,
And
I was obsessive back then. I want to watch everything in order.
yeah, and like you said, like there's just something about like being a kid back then and seeing that fucking movie, seeing Aliens, because it's so like fucking quotable. It's got like such even now, like you hear where like you if you're involved in the pulp culture, the anything, you see the influences of Aliens. You see people like in comics like using the same lines, or they're using some of the same like setups. The whole like it's inspired like
I
the
use a
Space
statement for Close
Marine.
Encounters.
It's got so much influence, and it's crazy. So, and I was actually talking about this with my best friend who she um she did not like Aliens. She was doing a like an Aliens franchise watch, and she did not care for Aliens. And I think it was
Huh.
because but a couple things. Like she said she didn't like the dialogue. She said she thought it was like corny. Um
Oh,
but
okay.
I
How old was she?
no, she's just
How old was
watching them.
she?
She had never seen them before.
Okay. Because here's the thing, I could see, depending on age and what you're exposed to,
Yeah.
affecting that.
Yeah, I definitely think that had something to do with it. And so I wasn't trying to argue. I was just saying, like, look, it's an iconic piece of film. It's got so much like influence, and I was like rattling off all these like little things that like weave from Aliens into other pieces of pop culture. And it's just something about like growing up with it. It definitely has like an impact. And I could see how because it has had that impact, because you've seen like some of the same tropes that it helped solidify, like pop up in more movies over the last few decades, then yeah, you're kind of gonna think that it's gonna be on the cheesy side because you've seen that sort of thing, or you've seen these
You've seen
types
everything
of
that wins
characters
from it. It takes
that
from it.
have, yeah, that have just become like so like derivative
Oh my God, you know what it
of
is?
Aliens.
It's a John Carter effect.
Yeah.
Because when John Carter was adapted from John Carter from Mars, so many things took from John Carter that when the time they finally got the movie out, they're like, but people are like, oh, this is a ripoff of Star Wars. This is a ripoff of such and such. It's like, no, George Lucas straight up said that this thing from the 1920s influenced Star Wars. It's like when people who don't know any better call Dune a Star Wars knockoff, and I'm like, stop, first off, put down the crack pipe. Second off, no, that he actually said that he read that damn book. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just a matter of you it definitely has something to do with, what order you're seeing it, what age you are, like what other kind of media you've consumed. So like I'm not gonna, burn her at the stake or
Oh
anything
no,
like
no.
that. Um but Aliens, so wait, before we get like too deep into Aliens,
We didn't even talk about Ridley Scott and his whole
yeah,
influence on Alien because prior to Alien, if I remember, I think this is either Ridley Scott's first or second movie,
yeah,
which
let's
is
see.
kind of insane because I think I can't remember the exact movie, but it's of course the Ridley Scott movie, so it has Sean Connery in it, like in his first major film. Let me see. Doopa, doopa, doopa. All right, so he had done some short films, but before then, okay, I'm looking at his producing. Man has too many credits. Man has too much work.
Looks like some TV work.
Okay, but in terms of actual like film, like in terms of like actual film work, his first movie was The Duelist,
The Duels.
which is a really good movie. But when you watch it, it just you can see a lot of the Ridley Scottisms, if that makes sense, in terms of style and everything, even then. And of course, because it's I was wrong. It wasn't Sean Connery, but Dude, check this cast. You got Keith Carradine, Harvey Keitel, and Albert Finney as your leads on your first
Nice.
movie. It's like you're kind of set for greatness right there. But then Alien was his second movie, and talk about your career just blowing up overnight. Just like with Weaver.
Yeah. He's been working with some great casts, and I wasn't even aware of the Duelists, but kind of just like doing a little bit of overview here on IMDb. It's kind of interesting how he went back to like the last duel.
Yeah, and I feel that was very much on purpose.
Yeah,
In a way, if that would have been his last movie, it could have actually could work together as as kind of a symmetrical kind of closure there.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, between this and Blade Runner a couple of years later, it's the influence that he has had on science fiction, if not just cinema in general, is just it's hard to define, you know?
Definitely one of my all-time favorite directors.
The yeah, everything about this movie, the atmosphere, the cinematography, the directing, the writing, and like Dan O'Bannon, he is a writer who he needs his co-writers because Dan O'Bannon's kind of crazy. If you ever don't know this, you need to watch the documentary that for Return of the Living Dead called Dean War Brains, where basically every other person was like, yes, this man is brilliant, but he's also insane. And he both wrote and directed that movie.
You know what? I think what scene from Alien that disturbed me the most is probably even more so than the scenes that had to do anything with like the actual aliens. Um, is when Ash tries to kill Ripley.
Yeah.
That
Also,
scene like really fucked with me when I first saw it. Like the when he's trying to like choke her with the rolled up magazine.
just so weird. Also,
It is.
that's a crusty porn magazine, so that's nasty. Is that wrong? That was
That
my thought
was
when I watched it recently. I'm like, that is literally a crusty porno magazine. What the hell?
was that Brett's? Was that Brett's or was that Parker's?
I don't know. You mean which one, Carl or Lenny? We don't know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That
Jen came up with that a long time ago. I have to give her credit for the Carl and Lenny in space.
that's not bad. But then like he's trying to kill Ripley with this magazine and he's like trying to like crush the heart of Parker's crush Parker's heart like while it's still in his fucking chest. Like that something was so fucking disturbing about that for me. And then when they hit them, what did he hit him with? Like a fire extinguisher or something like
Yeah,
that.
and you
And
see the head
then
just
he starts like making that
like
weird
convulsing.
squeal. Yeah. That was like and I think it definitely had something to do with like the white blood, like the machine liquid. Um that was pretty disturbing. Like I don't know why that would have just like fucked me up more than any of the alien scenes in that movie.
Oh no, dude! Back in the early 2000s, I was like late 90s, early 2000s. I was going to basically through my goth stage, and I just remember there was one club that was playing the movie on. They had all these TVs above the bar, and they were playing Alien on all the TVs. But because of the music and everything going on, the movie itself was muted, so there was no sound for the movie. It just had it played for atmosphere, and it was that scene when I looked up, and I'm like, why is this so much more disturbing without any audio?
It's just something about the way that Ian Holm plays Ash. It's just so fucking creepy.
We,
Um, before we move on though, like I also have to give it up if we're talking about like some of the folks that are like really contributing to the series. You have to talk about H.R. Geiger,
of course.
who also had like some inspired like designs for species and
Oh, he did the designs for Species.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the design for the alien, the Xeno, is like so fucking iconic. And I'm not gonna let's Ian, you can help me out. What was the gentleman's name again who played
It,
the Xeno?
hold
You
on.
know I'm fucking terrible at names. Balaji Badejo.
Yes,
Yeah,
I believe you actually did say it right. I'm
nice. I got it right for once.
it's either that or Balaji Badejo. I think it's Badejo.
Okay. Like he was great. The the fucking like the double mouth. And the fact that sometimes like I know it's not in all of the alien designs, but like when you have the skull and like the semi
You have
well
to
kind
give
of like
credit
the
to Carlo Rambaldi. He was the one who actually did the alien head effects in that movie.
so good.
And if you don't know Carlo Rambaldi, he's worked on just small movies like Alien, E.T., Close Encounters of the Third Kind. One of my favorite movies I've only just recently saw, the 1976 King Kong, aka King Kong Gets Creepy.
What do you mean?
Have you seen the 1970s King Kong when he keeps trying to take out what's her face's titty?
No. I mean, I
Go
might have, but like it probably didn't register when I saw it.
go watch it now. It's still
Oh
really
God.
good. But dude, he gets horny eyes in that movie. It's kind of hilarious.
Oh God. No, I think the most recent, if we're not counting like the legendary stuff with Godzilla, I watched Peter Jackson's King Kong not too long ago, but I couldn't
Kong
watch the
Skull
end,
Island is
man.
oh I know I know that ice skating scene is really stupid.
But the the effects in that movie were so fucking good.
Yeah, the
Like,
the one thing the dinosaur stampede does look a little bit irpy at times.
mhm. But like Andy Serkis's Kong, so
So, have you ever heard of a game called Darkseid? Just brief aside.
no.
Darkseid is a game that our listeners would fucking love. I'm gonna show you a little bit of Darkseid. This is a game designed by H.R. Giger. Even just the thumbnails
Oh yeah.
on here. It's a point and click adventure game. It was made in the late 80s, early 90s. There is a sequel. It's good too, but not as good as this. And this is a game that is very difficult. Like unlike a lot of point and click games. Now this is like merciless, like Sierra point and click game era, where
Hmm.
like they weren't going to save you like Monkey Island. Like you could die, I die plenty. But if you knew what you're doing, it was really, really fun. And it's literally a game designed by H.R. Giger that incorporates his paintings into the gameplay.
Yeah, and it reminds me there was like another game I think that came out a little more recently. I think it was Scorn.
I don't know. It's cool.
I don't think had very good reviews, but the let's see.
Oh, and real quick, underrated movie that's really finally only getting its following. That the
So
same the same special effects I worked on, a movie called Possession.
who's in that?
Possession stars Sam Neill, who
Okay.
of course those American audience will readily know him more so than Isabella Adjani. But Isabella Adjani is probably one of the best French actresses of all time, and like most really acclaimed actresses of the 70s. She was also very temperamental, very egotistical, but really, really talented. If you ever saw the 1979 version of Nosferatu, she's Lucy in Nosferatu. And that's an amazing movie. It's very disturbing. I will say this, there are some things there there were moments in my life a long time ago where I had a relationship that was kind of difficult. It was kind of up and down. And I will say this, because of some of the stuff that movie deals with, I don't suggest watching it if you know anyone who's dealt with any kind of relationship issues or problems like that might affect them. I don't recommend watching it in that particular situation. But if you want something very moody, very technical, that's also just beautifully made, it's a fantastic horror movie. And he did the effects work for that movie. There's a creature that's pretty much just all condoms, like a lot of creatures from horror movies. But it's seriously one of the most interesting and creepiest things I've ever seen in a movie. And it's by the same guy who designed E.T.
So is it almost like Gone Girl but with a creature?
No,
No?
this movie is like nothing.
Okay.
But yeah, like you said, I mean, you look at people like Nick Alder, the special effects artist, who was still doing work all the way up to the 2000s. You look at people like H.R. Giger, you look at the cast, you look at Ridley Scott, Dan O'Bannon, excuse me, what they're able to accomplish with this movie. And yeah, it really kicked off modern science fiction, in my opinion, because outside of something like 2001: Space Odyssey, was there anything really like this to this technical level before Alien?
Yeah, and it really kind of like underscored how hostile space can be. Like we kind of like associate space with like this wonder and achievement, and we're doing all these great things, but Alien just made us kind of like second guess it in the same way that Jaws makes you second guess like going to the beach.
Yeah. And before we move on, I'm gonna say this right now. Alien is a straight 5 out of 5. There are no, in my opinion, there are no issues with this movie. There's no technical issues. I mean, there are things that are certainly dated, but in comparison to other movies, like I love Star Wars and I love Superman the movie, but in terms of 1970s movies, 1970s spec movies like this one has aged significantly less than those two movies.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5 just because I'm stingy about giving perfect scores. But like you said, it does hold up very well. When I was kind of like, and this is what we can kind of like go back into when we talk about aliens, but when you think about it, like this definitely doesn't have, even if it like might be, not be as straight up as quotable as aliens, it doesn't have that same kind of dialogue that might age as poorly.
Yeah,
Like everything about it still like holds up. And that's just really impressive for this movie. That's like, how old is it now? It's
it's
30,
46 years old.
40. Yeah. Okay.
Now,
We're
question
old.
for you. Yeah, we are. Have you heard of a movie called Galaxy of Terror?
No.
Okay, Galaxy of Terror. Okay, do you like every hit movie like this? There's going to be the cash-ins, there's going to be the knockoffs. There still are nowadays. They just come out a
Mhm.
week from another, like Deep Rising or Armageddon back in the 90s. Because every movie has
Right.
to have the other version of it. And yes, I mean Deep Impact. I mean someone remember Deep Impact. The studio should be proud. Um, Galaxy of Terror was in 1981. It's produced by Schlockmeister himself, Roger Corman. Now, anyone familiar with Roger Corman knows that Roger Corman, he kickstarted careers. Francis Ford Coppola started off with Roger Corman. Jack Nicholson started off with Roger Corman. His was basically a film school by itself because they were not a big budget company. They were still technically around. You have to realize he only passed away this last year and he was still producing movies. Um, Galaxy of Terror was his Alien knockoff. There were a couple of them, but this was the big Alien knockoff that he did. And it had actually a really solid cast. Robert Englund's in it, Sid Haig is
Yeah.
in it, Aaron Moran is in it, and it's like, oh, that's a really damn good cast. And people that we all know more now, than back then, because remember, this was 3 years before Aliens. But there was a director on the movie who apparently was just temperamental and kind of lazy, and his name was Bruce D. Clark. So there was a production designer who had worked on a couple other movies. He was a set artist first. He was a matte painter first, came from New York, and some other things. And apparently, he was a production designer on the movie named James Cameron. James Cameron basically took over on that movie. He is an uncredited director, and was first work. This is before Piranha 2, which is officially his first movie, even though he denies it. But he basically directed this entire movie. What irony is it that James Cameron, of course, would direct the 1986 sequel Aliens?
I think Galaxy of Terror is on Prime as well, so I might check that out
It's
too.
solid. It's a fun movie.
Speaking of fun movies, Aliens.
Aliens is a fucking blast.
It is. There's the fuck the Michael Bean. He's great. Paul Reiser, skeevy little fucker. Bill
Oh, have you read
Paxton.
the What If comic?
I
Or what if
did. I think I did. The
I
the
still
one
need to
with
read it.
Burke
I need
with
to read it.
Burke.
I'm gonna check it out on Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah, I read that. It was interesting. Have you read any of the Alien versus Avengers or no?
No, I'm kind of at that point where I'm kind of aliened out. Like I love my Dark Horse Alien stories, and I love some of the stuff they're doing. But outside of the Alien versus Wolverine, I'm like I'm just gonna take a breathe. Or Predator
I
versus
think you
Wolverine. I'm gonna take a breath.
might like it. It's got like the same creative team as Secret Wars. I think it was like Jonathan Hickman and
Wait, Jonathan Hickman,
Esau.
seriously?
Yeah,
Oh
and
shit.
I think it's I don't know if it's Esau Ribic. I think his name is,
Okay, you know
or is
what?
it?
Yeah, fuck that. I'm gonna read it.
Yeah.
how many charts and graphs can we get in there, man?
I do like his little charts and graphs and shit that he puts in because I'm finishing doing like a time runs out Secret Wars reread. But yeah, back to aliens though. Lance Henriksen, fucking Jesus, Jeanette Goldstein, just
Yeah.
like
And I know
everybody.
and I understand. And I know the two people here, I should not be the person to go on a side about this. I understand Jeanette Goldstein's
Yeah.
reluctancy about having been in Aliens and having played the role of Vasquez because, like she said, there were a lot of Hispanic actresses who had not been discovered who could have been discovered with this role.
Mhm.
But is there anyone who actually thinks that she is not iconic in this part, despite her reluctance nowadays?
It I didn't know for many years that she was
She's Irish Jewish.
yeah, I didn't know that she was non-Hispanic. She was still like she was like Hispanic icon in our house like growing up. Uh when we were level one of this, let's see. I think I saw this, I want to say, because this movie came out the same year that I did, 1986.
Ah,
So
child. See, I was 2 years
I,
before. I was Terminator and Nightmare on Elm Street.
yeah, so when I saw this, I want to say I can't remember. I want to say I was like maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah. Oh, you
Um
saw it young. I saw it 10, man.
Yeah, I did because like I had my older sister, like I have an older sister who's a couple years older than me, and then I have another older sister who's like, the better part of a decade older than me. So she kind of like would like show us some stuff when she was watching us. Be like, "Oh, this is like a cool movie." And it was a movie that like we
Oh,
all enjoyed.
we totally didn't touch
What's
on the soundtrack for Alien. Credit to Jerry Goldsmith, by the way, for the soundtrack for Alien.
Does, let's see. Does he do soundtrack work on Aliens as well or
No,
no?
James Horner,
Okay.
who is, of course, a regular collaborator of James Cameron,
Yeah.
did the music on this.
Yeah, it's like one of those movies where it's like you like as much as we were like heaping praise upon Alien, you would
Oh,
almost
and
think
by the way, in memory of James Horner, by the way, he did pass away in 2015.
as much as, we're saying like such great things about Alien, you would think that like shifting away or like messing with that creative formula would really dilute the product of the sequel. But then like we're saying, like we have this great cast, we had James Cameron, we had James Horner. Like
Yeah,
there's still you're going
heck,
from strength to
Adrian
strength.
Biddle, who's seriously one of like even in a bad movie like Dredge Dread, like his cinematography and work that he does is still fantastic. I know I'm not talking about the Dredge from 2012. I'm talking about Judge Dredd. But let's talk about this. I would need to touch on this. This is the first movie that Adrian Biddle was a cinematographer on. Because right after this, he did Princess Bride, and right after that, he did Willow.
That's pretty fucking solid.
Yeah.
After that, it's just like let him do whatever the fuck he wants.
Oh, and some movie called Thelma and Louise.
Oh yeah, that little movie.
Yeah.
So Aliens, like Jesus, man, like it's so when you first saw it, like did you see
I
um
saw the theatrical cut because the director's cut was not available
okay,
yet. It had
okay.
been shown on TV, but it was not readily available on home video because a lot of people don't realize that the only way you could have got the director's cut back then was, I believe, on Laserdisc. And only after about 1999 when
Yeah.
the DVD set came out, because that was actually the first DVD that I owned was the box set for Alien. Um,
Yeah.
And I
when you're
don't mean like the
going,
later one. I mean the little four disc one.
yeah, but when you're like upgrading any medium, like when you're going from like your VHS to DVD to Blu-ray to HD 4K stuff, like Aliens remains like one of the movies that you upgrade first.
Which is ironic considering all the controversy about the Aliens 4K release.
Tell us about that, Ian. I know
Oh,
you got a little bit of tidbit.
James Cameron. James Cameron loves everything to look very modern. So James Cameron used AI and a non-DNR AI software to go in and remaster the movies, removing all of the grain and keeping all the clean detail that 80s movies are known for. So The Abyss looked great. The Abyss looked excellent. True Lies, I decided to keep my bare bones non 16 by 9 DVD because I technically looked better. The Abyss, like I said, excellent. Aliens looks good. Aliens looks good, but it's overly clean, and Aliens has always been a very grainy movie. And so when you see, and like the Blu-ray kind of hit that perfect spot, had that perfect balance. The 4K, it feels like you're looking at characters in front of backdrops.
Hmm.
And what did he say about this when he was asked about it in an interview? Oh, it's just basement dwellers who make their own movies, that live with their who should make their own movies and just live with their moms in their basements. They're the only people who care about that. And I'm like, yes, yes, James, let's just throw your fans under the bus and assume that anyone who wants movies to not look shitty is a basement dweller who lives with their mom.
You know, when we were talking a little bit earlier about my friend who did not care as much for aliens that we do, I forgot to also think about the factor of James Cameron's douchiness might have influenced that take as well. To be like, oh, this fucking guy made it. Let's take it down a little peg or two. Um, yeah, I can't. I imagine that that had a little bit of influence on it, but it's it's still a fucking entertaining movie. Like it's hard to take that away from him, even though he does do some douchey things like that.
Here you go. I'm going to show you a quick example for everybody. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to notice the difference right away.
You get a little side by side.
The color seems off. There's a lot of facial detail that's actually missing. Like the lips look blurry. Everything looks off about the picture on the right. Or being the picture on the left. It's like I misspoke, but like if you look at everything, it looks fake. It
Yeah,
looks kind of waxy on the left. This should not look waxy. It doesn't look real. It looks like it looks digital. It looks like Avatar. Aliens should not look like Avatar because Aliens was filmed on film in 1986.
respect the Smurfs, man.
But seriously, why does this look so weird?
I don't know. I think
It doesn't even look bad. It just looks, you know what it is? It looks unsettling. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
it's got that uncanny valley type
Yeah.
of touch.
The whole movie looks like this.
Well, in that case, like I'm even though I do have the Blu-ray, and I'm bad about like not putting movies, even though I have the physical media, popping them into the PlayStation.
Oh,
I
this
just
is
like
also
still stream
why you
them.
shouldn't necessarily watch them on iTunes, not iTunes, Hulu, and such, because they're using that version of it.
Yeah, I feel like the slight downgrade that you get still like keeps some of that graininess.
Yeah, because they
But
they did pull some of the grain out of the Blu-ray, but it actually was balanced well.
but Ian here,
Sorry for the side. It's just you
no.
can't help but talk about that nowadays when you're
Getting
talking about
back to like the
aliens.
different like versions of it though, if we're talking about different versions, you were alluding to the director's cut.
The special
So
edition director's cut of this movie is absolutely amazing. You get and the funny thing is, it was released on TV in 1990, but it didn't get released on home video until 1999.
so
And
correct me if I'm wrong, but like I think the most significant difference is they show like more background in terms of like Ripley's relationship with her daughter.
Yeah, you find out about Amanda, who, funny enough, considering where I am right now, and I don't know how long I've actually survived with how much talking I'm
Yeah.
doing. Um,
You see Amanda, is she wandering back there?
nope, just suits.
No? Okay.
But just there's some big giant monster thing in front of me. I'm pretty sure I'm okay. Whatever.
What would you do if you started to see some like
Die.
Xeno like movement in the background?
I would die. I would actually die. Um,
Okay, so
the
like
but
yeah,
yeah, that is definitely key because and Amanda Ripley, of course, as everyone who's played Alien Isolation knows that she is in fact the main character of Alien Isolation.
I still need to
Um,
play it. Still need to play it.
it's so good, but it's so difficult. There's a point where I just kind of stopped. Also, I
Yeah,
got tired of fighting robots. I'm like, there's aliens here.
I
The
heard that
alien.
they set that game up so that way the aliens and I think there's some synthetics they actually like learn how you play and that's what
Yeah.
makes it more difficult.
Oh no, if you make sounds in the microphone, it will hear you
Yeah.
and
And
it will
like
start
it'll
following you.
they'll start to like learn where your favorite hiding
It can
spots
hear you
are and
breathe
shit like
heavy if
that.
you get scared.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'll play
But
it
the
one
game is
day.
made design. It's designed for people to shit themselves. Um, I'm gonna say this. Like the key thing for me is really is the characters, and outside of Ripley, who is just fucking amazing in this movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it's often quoted, included by the master, including the master Jamie Kennedy, the star of a movie franchise that we've watched and never got to actually review called Tremors. Michael. Enough about that. Don't worry though. We're gonna be doing something in the summer just for you, Michael, because of that whole Tremors debacle. Love you.
I don't know what
Um,
you're talking about.
so with that, the classic line, "Get away from her, you bitch," as quoted by the great Jimmy Kennedy in Scream 2. Um,
Yeah, that's such a fucking head slapping moment.
but can we talk about just how much of a step up with Ripley and seeing her like they could have easily weakened the character by putting her into maternal role and basically making her alien mom or Joel or Fem Joel. There you go, Fem Joel.
Yeah,
But although honestly Joel is just male Ripley, but that's neither here nor there. But they didn't like they easily wrote her as still this super capable action lead who just really redefined an entire era where you talk to people about all of the action actors of the day, and people are like, "Oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, to a lesser extent, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Sylvester Stallone, and Sigourney Weaver." And that's really fucking important. Like people don't realize and didn't realize for a number of years how important that actually was. And now we look at roles that take from that, both in good and in bad. And it's amazing when you realize the influence of that movie, even with the first movie, how much Aliens with Ripley and Aliens specifically, how much of impact that had.
and you see kind of even throughout like this own its own franchise how Ripley like she's influencing some of the other main characters and in some ways they try to catch that same lightning in the bottle with some of the other characters they bring on later in the franchise. But when you think about it and you're watching like the first Alien and you see Ripley is so like capable and like level-headed and she stays that way and it's funny because she she takes that to the next level because she's driven by that maternal instinct because of
Yeah.
her loss of her daughter and her connection to Newt. And it's kind of interesting to see like how
Oh, by the
it
way, that keep in mind that's Carrie Henn's first and only acting role,
yeah.
which is even more impressive when you consider the impact that she's had on that role. And she's only now, in the last couple of years, started coming to conventions and stuff because she's actually been a full-time teacher for a number of years prior to that,
I imagine so many people
or
have
after
come
that.
up to her and like said they mostly come out at night mostly and she's just like fuck off.
Nah, apparently she's really enjoying it. Like she's actually
Oh,
loved a
that's
lot of the
good.
alien
That's good.
reunions.
Hopefully, has she come to any of the Texas cons and you?
Not that I know of. I'm
Okay.
still jealous of Stephanie Chan from Circuit 42. The fact that she still has that photo op with the entire cast of aliens.
Oh, nice.
Like, yeah, it's still one of the coolest things ever. And she didn't realize she knew somebody was touching her shoulder during the photo op, but didn't know who it was. And then she realized that Sigourney Weaver had her hand on her shoulder.
Very nice. It's almost
Oh,
like the photo op that my wife had with Ron Perlman, except you know other hands were touching other places. But
oh, Ron, you're so crazy. At least he didn't pee pee on his hands like he wants to when he meets Trump.
no, he was just rubbing her shoulder. And my wife was like, she didn't realize it, but she had her hand on his butt, and she was just like, "Oh, okay." It's like,
I
was that why he was rubbing my shoulder?
and he did. God damn it. He's just looking at y'all from the other side of the bar.
And I think I can't remember. Am I? I don't even know. I don't even remember if I'm in that picture. Like, I think she might have just like folded me out of that one. It's just like this is me and Ron.
Oh,
Oh
and
God.
one of the things I want to touch on, Michael Biehn
Oh
never
yeah.
really gets credit as an actor that he should, in my opinion. Like my favorite role with him, oddly enough, is still Tombstone. But
Oh
he,
why?
because he's just good at it. It's a different, very different role for him.
You'd like
Because
to see him play the heel, basically.
yeah, and he
Yeah.
works so well in it. But Michael Biehn, especially in the '80s, he was just a manly actor, man. Like he was known.
Yeah.
I mean, look how many times this man played a freaking Marine or Black Ops soldier or something like that. I mean, even in Terminator, because really we don't get the Sarah Connor that we know, like with Aliens, until the second movie. And that's really when we get that Sarah Connor that we identify. But the thing I love about Michael Biehn in this role, like you can see the flirtation with him and with Hicks and with Ripley early on in the movie.
Mhm.
Yeah, but as it kind of turns around and she becomes the person who rescues him, he's the one who got fucked up by the aliens. She's the one dragging him into the ship to save him. And it's really interesting seeing the role reversal as the movie goes with Ripley and Hicks. And it's subtle. Like you don't even notice
Yeah.
until like after watching the movie and kind of thinking back on it. Because you have that
And
shot where he's just fucked up and she is just dragging him into the ship. And like this is the reversal of any movie up to that point.
and it's not too far off of, when Sarah Connor was, carrying Kyle Reese.
Yeah. And I think it's so cool though that you also like this is the thing I've always liked about Michael Biehn. I've seen interviews with him. I know people have met him, and I know that he's had his issues. But when you watch interviews with him, he's you have so many actors who, especially from that era, who are like, "Oh, I don't want to be in the movie where the woman's the lead," blah blah blah. And he's like, "No, I don't give a shit. It's a great movie. It's a great character.
Yeah.
And why would I care? Why would I feel?" He pretty much said, "Why would I feel? Why would I need to have such low confidence that this would bother me while I'm making this movie?"
And speaking of the military roles, I think a little tidbit I read was that Al Matthews, who plays Sergeant Apone, he was
Mm-hmm.
like the first black sergeant of the Marines.
You know that.
Yeah, so that's
Seriously,
pretty
though,
impressive.
the cast
And
of this movie is just
they
fucking.
gel so well too. And another thing I saw was like the fact that you're kind of like sold on their chemistry is in part because I guess that scene where they're all coming out of cryo, they did that last.
That makes so much sense now.
So that, they've all been through like the shared experience of like doing the filming, and they've all got like kind of like their own little connections and their vibes with everybody. And that comes across in that scene. And that explains like why you feel that sense of history with them.
Yeah, we need to talk about the special effects in this movie.
The alien queen, man.
Yeah, the fact that if you've ever seen the test footage, it's literally just a bunch of garbage bags. It's basically the armature, and they
Mhm.
to simulate the look of it when they're testing out. There's a very infamous video they're testing out behind the studio, and it's literally just covered in garbage bags with the face on it. And
It's
then you look at what's in the movie, and it's like, holy crap.
that God, that fucking alien queen is just like one of the most iconic designs, and she's so like terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, a correction for a previous podcast, by the way. So
What's
Stan
that?
Winston, who of course worked on Aliens, just memory, man. Memories for that man. But seriously, the work that he created during his lifetime. He actually did work on The Thing. You were actually right about that. He did uncredited work on The Thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
specifically
mean,
the dog scene.
fuck, man. Any, and then we'll talk about this a little bit more, but like any scene that has to do with like dogs getting hurt, it just hits me extra hard.
But we need to talk about Tom Woodruff and Al Gillis because we're going to be talking about them again. Al
Okay.
Gillis was a coordinator in creature effects. He was basically the crewman after the crewman after the crewman. So was Tom Woodruff. And their careers, not only are their careers absolutely fantastic, not only did they create Studio 80i, which also did the original practical effects for the 2011 remake of The Thing, but their footprint is going to be forever in the world of Alien and Predator. But yeah, they were just part of Winston's crew, and now they're basically the Stan Winston of their day.
So, Ian, I know there's like a lot of different iconic scenes in this movie. So which one stuck out the most to you?
For me, it's going to be the scene that everybody says. It's going to be and I know everyone talks about it. I know it gets referenced constantly. The final fight between Ripley and the Power Loader and the Alien Queen.
Yeah.
That, that, and the knife trick with Lance Henriksen and Bill Paxton. I've
That
met Lance Henriksen, by the way.
the
Lance did that for real.
oh, he did.
He did a little slower, but Bill
Okay.
Paxton didn't think it was going to happen the way it was. So when Bill Paxton's freaking out,
It's
you,
freaking out for real.
yeah, you have to realize this is Lance Henriksen was a Vietnam soldier who didn't actually know how to read because of a fucked up childhood and learned to read while reading scripts while auditioning for movies. This guy went through a lot, and apparently the scars that he has on his face are from his father. So this man went through a lot of shit. And this is like a real life, like basically Space Marine that they just put in the movie. Which is so funny because you wouldn't think the thin, unassuming replicant was the one who threw all that shit in real life. You know?
Crazy. I think going off of what you were saying in terms of like the scene that sticks with you the most in terms of seeing Ripley get to actually like square up with the Queen, it was like so
Iconic.
traumatic seeing fucking Bishop getting speared through the chest
It was
with the
brutal.
alien queen's tail. Like Jesus. And fuck. And it
Yeah.
was like nice to see like Ripley. We talk so much about like the different ways that like Ripley like she developed from the first movie to the second. And one of them, like we were talking about, speaking of, traumatic scenes, and I was referring to like when Ash was trying to kill Ripley, and now throughout Aliens, she's like distrusting um, Bishop like so much, and then he finally earns her trust, and he's like the Robin to her Batman in so many ways in this movie. It's a nice like little development to see, and Lance Henriksen like does such a good job with Bishop.
Oh, one thing I need to touch on because we're going to go more into this when we get to the following Alien sequels. Tom Woodruff, just to give an idea of what I'm talking about for you and everyone at home. Tom Woodruff's first movie that he worked on was The Terminator. And then did The Monster Squad. And then he did Alien Nation. And then he did Leviathan. And then he did Tremors. He did Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Death Becomes Her, Demolition Man. He worked on Jumanji, which actually did have some practical effects in it, not all terribly dated CGI. Starship Troopers. He did an episode of The X-Files. He worked on Alien versus Predator, which despite its issues had some really good practical effects.
Hmm.
He's worked on the Tremor sequels all the way up through Tremors 4. In recent years, he's worked on It. He's worked on Godzilla versus Kong. He's worked on the Jurassic World movies. He made this is a movie that he helped co-direct, and it wasn't a great movie, but it was basically their response to the movie to the Thing remake called Harbinger Down, which is actually produced by ADI Pictures. Not a great movie, but if you want to see some really cool practical effects, that's really what that movie's there for. But
I
yeah,
haven't seen it.
so they accomplished some things.
Just a little bit.
Oh, and then Alec Gillis, if I remember, also worked on Prey. I need to double check that and see if that's correct. Okay.
And also, big, big props to uh, Bill Paxton. His delivery and his improv. There's so many fucking great lines.
Oh, sorry, I'm gonna throw this out there. To give you an idea of how long Gillis has been working in the franchise, he also worked on as a special effects supervisor on Alien Romulus.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
still going strong. Does it say if he's gonna have a hand in Alien Earth or no?
It does not say.
Oh,
But
okay,
we will touch on that show briefly because there's not really much to talk about yet. But we'll bring that up at the end.
all right. So
But
we
I do agree
got to
with
leave
Bill
some.
Paxton. Please continue.
No, I was just gonna say, um, it's like speaking of other folks who we've lost and have contributed such a great deal to the franchise. Hudson, even though he was like annoying as shit, he's like a staple of James Cameron's movies. He's
Forget that
just
he's dead. Is that weird?
no, because like there are a couple other stars like lately that we've lost, like Adrian Browder from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, plays Sergeant Holt. He passed as well, and that really fucking sucked. But
Oh, we need to be part of this movie because we touched on this. We talked about the writing, but we didn't really give credit where credit's due to the people that wrote it. But yeah, let's touch on that. Let me, because of course, blah, I totally had a brain fart, folks. I am a professional, and this never happens ever,
never.
never. Blah. Blah. So James Cameron. There you go. David Giler and Walter Hill. Now, I'm not going to be the first or the last to admit that I'm not completely aware of Mr. Giler. But of course, we know Walter Hill because Walter Hill made a movie called The Warriors.
Oh, man. Yeah, I didn't see that movie for like the longest time. And I finally watched it, I want to say within like the last 5 years or so. It still holds
Oh,
up, man. That's like
and you know
it's
what? I need to cover myself wrong. He
what's
did not
up.
direct The Warriors, but he directed 48 Hours and he directed Streets of Fire, two of my favorite movies. He made those back to back. Oh, I was wrong. He did direct The Warriors. So yeah,
He
he
did.
did The Warriors, 48 Hours of Streets of Fire. So there you go.
Was there anybody in the Alien franchise who popped up in The Warriors?
Almost.
Was
And
there any kind of crossover there?
well, I mean, I remember, wasn't James Remar in The Warriors? Yes, he was. He played Ajax. James Remar almost played Hicks, but James Remar had a bit of a drug problem, and that's why James Remar is not in Aliens. And also, when everyone was designing their armor and came in that day to design it, being that he was a very because there's actually footage of James Remar as Hicks, like there's making of footage out there. But
I, I could kind of see that, but at the same time, I think
Michael Bean fits it so well.
Michael Biehn just like he he brought like a level of like subtlety and vulnerability and likability to that character. And oftentimes I see James Remar playing like more of a dick.
Yeah, but
And some people are just
hindsight's
better at
2020
that.
though.
Sorry, what was that?
But hindsight is 2020, and I
Yeah,
wonder. Part of me wonders, like part of me wonders about the Terminator movie where Lance Henriksen played the Terminator, and that he was going to be someone who could actually blend in. That was the
yeah,
idea of the Terminator initially. Like I love the original movie and nothing to change that, but part of me wants to know about that version of the Terminator where Lance Henriksen's Terminator and how his career would change because of that, or would it have?
yeah. It's kind of weird because I feel like if it would have been Lance Henriksen, like it almost would have been like a little bit too similar, I think, to Bishop, in that you're trying to get like that same like non-human vibe. Like it just looks a little like off, like in the way that he carries himself, and it brings that across. And I think that they
Hey, Michael, you're kind of cutting it out. I would say switch out of HC. Michael is frozen, everybody. I think the alien killed Michael.
watch this.
Well, I watched what because you're literally just kind of standing there. Michael is dead. The alien has ripped off his head.
Am
Michael
I
is
back?
dead. That movie Host, the one on Shutter where their screen kept glitching, and then you realize they're just dead in the background, and we were just seeing like a constant loop of their face. It felt kind of like that for a second, but there you go. There you go.
Am I back?
Yep, in your 480 standard definition DVD.
Let me try setting it back. I so the shitty thing. How's that? Is that good?
Yeah,
The shitty thing that happens with Cox. Cox pretends like they don't do any metering in their internet connections.
yeah, Super Spectrum, sure. All right.
And so like I think it's the fact that I have my PlayStation wired. I have it hooked up with an Ethernet cable. Just, who wouldn't? But
Cox, who are fucking you over?
and because it's been off for like over an hour, they're just like, this guy doesn't need his internet, his gig speed anymore.
That's ridiculous. Oh,
So they downgraded my shit, and that's what just happened.
so to give you an idea, when it comes to the three screenwriters of the movie, David Giler, unfortunately, the other person who has passed since then, as of 2020. David Giler is kind of the odd man out because one of his biggest screen accomplishments was the infamously panned Meyer Breckenridge from 1970, one of the worst movies of all time, worst and mean-spirited comedies ever made. He also, but he, and the same, to give you an idea, the same year that he wrote The Money Pit with Tom Hanks is the same year that he got a story credit on Aliens. He has a very interesting and very atypical writing career compared to the other people who have made this movie.
Hmm.
I think atypical is a very nice way of saying he wrote Maya Breckenridge. Don't watch that movie. I have shown these people so much garbage. And I'm telling you, people, do not watch Meyer Breckenridge. Don't watch it. Don't find it on the internet. Don't find it on DVD or Blu ray. Don't watch that movie. And remember, if someone tells you not to do something because you're children and so are we, you're probably going to do it. But don't do it. Wink, wink. Never watch Meyer Breckenridge. Don't.
It's got a 4.5 on IMDb.
Yes, it does for a good fucking reason. But don't watch it, everybody. Don't watch it. Don't watch it as soon as you listen to the show. As soon as you finish the show and listen to all of it, and then go watch my Breckenridge, but don't do it.
Don't do it.
For
All
all
right,
that is holy, don't watch my Breckenridge.
Ian, I think we got to make some time for
Alien
our
3,
other entries in the franchise. So before we move on, like how would you rate Aliens?
5 out of 5.
I'm gonna give it like another 4.5 just because I'm stingy.
Which is funny because I remember you kind of underrating it when we first attempted the show, which I was very interesting.
I think there are certain things that I noticed, and I think also like in my mind, I'm rating like the director's cut rather than the theatrical.
Yeah, because I remember you'd only see the director's cut, the theatrical cut of certain ones last time.
Yeah, so I definitely think one of the things that you come to appreciate about Aliens and the fact that and the reason why one of the reasons why it works so well is because of the side characters
Yep.
and the way that it uses their time and the way that it uses their dialogue. And in the same way that you see the franchise attempting to recreate some of that same iconic flavor that Ripley has, you see them trying to recreate some of the same relationships, some of the same uh, idiosyncrasies from the side characters and later pieces of the franchise, and some of them work okay, and some of them not so well.
Speaking of supporting characters that we love and that we like to stick around, here comes Alien 3. So Hicks is dead.
You know
Dude
that
is
guy that you
dead.
just spent that all those hours and you've rewatched this movie so many times and you're just like, oh, this guy's got such great fucking chemistry with Ripley and he's gonna be like kind of like the surrogate father to Newt. This is gonna be so cool.
Bishop is fucked up beyond anything.
I mean, that you could kind of see, yeah,
Yeah,
like he
but
did
it
get
didn't get
fucked up
any
a lot.
better. This
Um,
is a movie that was delayed so many times, and there were so many screenplays that came out, and so many writers who came out that the preview said they were coming to Earth because the preview was made before the movie was anywhere near finished, or before they had actually selected a script to write for the movie. William Gibson, one of the greatest science fiction authors of all time, his script got shut down and only was recently released as a graphic novel in the last 10 years. This movie had four screenwriters for one script. We are not going to go into the work of each one because we will be here forever.
I mean, we've seen more screenwriters for shittier
Yes,
movies,
but
though.
it was just the writers whose scripts got approved, not the
Yeah,
30 other screenwriters.
yeah.
Dave
Oh, and
Fincher hated this movie. This was his first movie that he worked on. And you can see him cursing like a fucking madman with good reason. Because apparently the
yeah.
studio was just fucking pushing him around the entire time and hired this director because of the fact that they thought they could push this guy around.
So for our listeners who are more like comic book geeks, this is like the equivalent of Brand New Day, basically.
So let's touch on David Fincher because we talk about each director, and so far each director so far of the two of both Ridley Scott and James Cameron are iconic directors before and after. David Fincher, it took a couple years. It took 5 years, but that's when he directed Seven. He has also, as recently, directed The Killer. He has directed The Social Network, Zodiac, Fight Club, Panic Room, The Game. Realize, okay, I was wrong. He was actually a 3 year gap between because he was so frustrated with the experience working on Alien 3 that it took him 3 years to direct Seven. And then immediately after he directed The Game. He, in my opinion, I think he might be the most consistently solid high end director of anyone who's worked on these movies afterwards.
Don't
Because even
forget
Ridley
Gone Girl,
Scott has
man.
clunkers,
Don't
but
forget Gone
I
Girl and The
know
Social
the
Network.
show, the TV show Mindhunter, and despite the spacey of it all, House of Cards, people forget that he created both of those shows. Like we don't talk about the Curious Case of Benjamin Button because it's set to ask, but that's not important right now. But in terms of your directors and what they went on to, this is probably the biggest fucking director to come out of the Alien movies. Like he's not a $1 billion box office record breaker like Cameron, but every movie he's made, with few exceptions, have been just acclaimed, have changed the way that things work, have changed filmmaking. I mean, really, Seven kind of became its own little subgenre with all of the like detective horror thrillers that followed it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go on about this movie because this movie is underrated as hell. Specifically the assembly cut. There is so much important information missing out of the theatrical cut of this movie. And the
Like
reason there is
what?
no director's cut is because of the fact that David Fincher hated working on the movie so much that he refused to come back and make a director's cut. This was
So
particular. Oh, sorry.
what's the difference then of the assembly version you said?
Oh, perfect example. Paul McGann's character, Gullick.
Mhm.
Remember the prisoner who talked about the dragon, and
Yeah.
you could tell that he was crazy, and you get all of this stuff cut out, and then you realize that he actually released the alien. Like you see him release the alien, you realize see him die from the alien, and you see it all on screen. You have this entire subplot of Golic that is removed from the entire movie. Um, the fact that it's not a dog in the original version of Alien 3 that is killed by the alien. It's actually an oxen. And these oxen are actually used for farming purposes. And it's actually when Charles Dance's character Clemens is out with the oxen that he finds Ripley. That's the reason that he was on the surface. Because otherwise it just seems kind of fucking random that he's there.
So this was an Oxen Xeno,
It was
an
supposed
Ox
to be.
Xeno.
But we've got the dog alien. That's why it's so small. Now I want to see a fucking oxen
That's
Zito.
I was about to say that's
That would
fucking
be awesome.
terrifying. That sounds like one of the like the did you ever see like I don't know which who made them, but like when they were coming out with like the different like alien figures, they had like the serpent one.
Yeah, or the gorilla alien.
I think they had like a bull one too. That probably would have not looked too far away from some kind of like oxen version that you're
Yeah,
imagining.
and I need to go back and check on exactly the running time of the Alien 3 assembly cut because I think it's a good 30 minutes that they
30
cut out
minutes
of the movie.
longer? 30
Yeah,
minutes longer? Oh wow. That is kind of long for an alien movie. That would make it about 2.5 hours.
let me see because I know the original runtime was an hour and 54 minutes. Let me see if I can find the running time
Oh,
of the director's cut.
I think we forgot to mention that sweet little girl that we, you know,
Oh, I
sweet little Newt.
with one of the most uncomfortable, saddest scenes ever in a movie, especially when you see the director's cut. And it's not just the reactions like in the theatrical version.
Yeah.
You see it happen. You see her get cut open. And it goes from being unsettling to being one of the hardest to watch scenes in a movie.
And Weaver really sold her reaction to the autopsy as well. Because like even in the cuts where you don't really get to see that much detail, just the look on her face and the pain, even though she knows it's necessary to do the kind of check that she's wanting to do for some kind of implanted Xeno.
So
She really sells that.
the director's cut of or the assembly cut of Alien 3.
Mhm.
Actually that's
Don't call it director's
Aliens
cut because Fincher will murder you.
144 minutes.
Okay.
So it went from so I was incorrect, but it went from an hour and
Yeah.
54 to 144.
Still a
So
decent chunk.
114 to 144. There's literally half an hour missing
Yeah.
out of that movie.
It's definitely I don't there wasn't as much of a difference between like the director's cut and theatrical for Aliens, right? It didn't
Um,
feel like that
about
much.
17 minutes.
Okay.
But yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it is not available on digital. You have to physically purchase it. I know that scares some of you, but
Yeah,
the difference it is a different movie, and I've never watched the theatrical cut ever since I watched the extended cut or the assembly cut.
I feel like I've only seen the theatricals.
Probably because if you've seen it on digital, mostly that's why.
Yeah.
But can we talk about this cast? Because you have this amazing cast on this movie. You have Sigourney Weaver, of course, returning. You have Charles S. Dutton. You have Charles Dance. Of course, now because of Game of Thrones, modern viewing audience, of course, knows Charles Dance. You have
Hmm.
Paul McGann, aka the Eighth Doctor from Doctor Who. You have Brian Glover. You have Holt McCallany. You have Lance Henriksen returning in a small role, in two roles, actually.
Yeah.
And you have Pete Postlethwaite. You just have this amazing mix of American and British actors in this film. And
Yeah.
of course,
It
everyone would know Holt McCallany
yeah.
mostly from Mindhunters as Bill Tench, but he's
It,
basically
it
been an everyday adventure movie.
it didn't hit me until I was rewatching it recently and I was looking at him. I was like, why the fuck does he look so familiar? He's unfortunately he plays like one of the guys who tries to sexually assault Ripley because she lands in this basically like a prison planet.
This is sad to say he looks like the worst kind of person in that movie, where it's like,
He
oh, okay,
he
this
looks
fits.
yeah, he really sold that fucking like skinhead piece of shit vibe. And that I'm glad he gets like some roles later where he obviously plays like the like some cops and some good guys
He
and
can't not play a tough motherfucker. Also, if they ever make a Heavy Rain movie, I know the actor, because if you play Heavy Rain, you know what I'm talking about.
wasn't
Um,
that a Christian Slater movie?
oh no, Heavy Rain is that's Hard Rain. Heavy Rain is
Hard Rain,
the video
yeah,
game by the
yeah,
creator of Detroit,
yeah. Okay.
Being Human. Oh, and this was produced by Sigourney Weaver. I can't remember if the if the aliens were produced by her, but I know this one specifically was. And this is
Yes,
where we start to see Alec Gillis, and the rest of his effects team at Studio ADI. This is where we really see them start to form. Now, what were we saying?
even though this isn't like the greatest movie to represent special effects.
Yeah, but that's because those effects were unfortunately were changed at the last minute. Also, it was also one of the first uses of CGI for
Yeah,
certain scenes.
some of it's pretty rough, which really sucks because I think, we talked about this before. There are versions where you do get to see the practical and you see snippets of the practical in the movie and it's still fucking solid. And it's kind of it's really stupid what ended up happening with it and what the end product they decided to go with.
Oh, and once again, regarding cinematographers and people just with an eye for film, the same person who's cinematographer for this also shot Legend by Ridley Scott, Excalibur, and Hamlet by Kenneth Branagh, just to give you an idea of the work that he does.
So when we talk about Aliens 3,
Yes.
even though like we're missing some of those key characters who survived the previous film, who's your favorite of this
Oh,
new cast?
my favorite of the new cast is easily Clemens.
Lemons.
Yes. I
Okay.
think his characters, I love the fact that you have this character who's extremely flawed. I mean, he literally, like, you think, oh, he's a prison doctor. It's like, oh, no, you're an inmate who killed people because of
Hmm.
your addiction to morphine. But
Yeah.
you see him coming around, you see him being a part of the system instead of part of the prison. And you get to see these people, at least in some point, evolve and turn themselves around within their society. And I think really Clemens and Dylan, Charles S. Dutton's characters are the real standouts.
Yeah.
Because Charles S. Dutton, Dylan, as he says, I am a murderer and rapist of women. When Ripley is trying to speak to him, and he's just like, no, even I don't want to talk to you. I am a preacher. I'm a man of God, but I have know what I have done.
Yeah.
And even then, you feel sympathy for this character, even knowing what he did and knowing what Clemens did. And that's the thing that I find so intriguing about the screenplay for this movie is that they are taking these characters that are the worst kind of scum, but they are giving them more so in the uncut version, but they're still giving them even the theatrical these layers where it's like I should hate you, but I don't, and it's so interesting. Oh,
So,
except Andrews, the warden, Brian Glover, he's just an asshole.
so how did you feel about 85?
85.
Yes.
I
I
don't know what
think
you're referring to.
his name was Ralph Brown. He played Aaron. They called him
Oh,
85 because of his IQ.
yes, that was. I barely remember era 85. I barely remember him in the movie.
Yeah, that was one of the key things. But one thing I was going to ask you about is like how you felt because there are times where you feel the too many cooks and like the choppiness of it,
Watch the assembly cut.
where some of the characters like make turns or there are kind of like plot points that kind of just
Watch the
like
assembly cut.
veer.
Everything you're talking about is
Yeah,
addressed in that
so
movie.
that is one of the things because like when they start to so basically what happens and one of the things I was going to ask you about as somebody who really liked Clemens, like how did you feel about the fact that right after they pretty much like right after they finished or like got him fleshed out for us, they killed him off.
I love it. It is one of the ballsiest things in that movie because they basically, you know what they did? They gave him the role of the character who gets laid in a horror film, but they actually made you give a shit. And when that death happens, it's a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I kind of wasn't even thinking about that point about like don't have sex in a horror movie and then he's like he fucking dies like right after.
yeah.
Um I thought maybe that was I didn't know. I wonder if there's like a version of this movie where he lived and they were trying to I don't know if they were just trying to find like a different angle on it and they wanted to give Dylan a bigger role. But when I was bringing up 85, um, who after Clemens is killed, he feels like one of the characters who kind of like slides in to be one of the supporting characters for Ripley. And he's there and he's initially like trying to help her out. And even though he's obviously like not the most intellectually capable character there, he's still being supportive of her and her goals initially and is trying to create kind of like reinforce like the sense of community for the place along with Dylan. And then he kind of becomes villainous.
I'm gonna speaking of 85 and speaking of how much of a difference these little scenes make. This reminded me when 85 hits Bishop 2 with the pipe, there's an additional moment in which Bishop 2 can be seen in pain and wiping red blood from his face. Adding more weight to the statement that he is indeed human and not an android. He shouts, "I'm not a droid." After this, Bishop sees one of his crew members with the camera trying to film Ripley, and he tells the man at the camera, "No pictures." That's Utani.
That's supposed to be a Utani descendant.
No, that's Utani.
Oh,
That's Wayland. Because remember, Prometheus didn't happen until later.
yeah.
They didn't plan for that shit. Ripley's death scene, the Queen burst does not just burst out of her chest. She actually falls and she dies with dignity, and it's sad, but you never see the Queen. The funeral scene is intercut with the oxen, with the chest hairs that are coming out of the oxen. Like the tone is very different in terms of it. Like it's still very dark, but it's a dignified dark, if that makes sense. Not a Hollywood dark.
So even though there were some iffy uh, CGI things going on, one of the things that I really liked was when I like the concept of these folks who don't have guns trying to fight this alien and eventually trying to kill it by pouring, the lead on it.
Yeah.
And the effect when Ripley releases the water on it to douse it and to cool it off. And you start to see like the cracks form on the alien. That was one of the coolest things I saw when I was a kid.
So last thing I want to touch on real quick before we move to the next movie. Elliot, we talked about the composers. and how each of them is this iconic composer who's made his own way in movies. And then there's Elliot Goldenthal, who has the most random career ever. Because Elliot Goldenthal did the music for Interview with the Vampire, which is one of my favorite movie scores. But then he did the music for the Joel Schumacher Batman movies, which I hope you love strings, really loud strings, because every other movie he does is either Frida or Batman and Robin in terms of tone. No middle, one extreme or the other.
Oh,
Elliot
he
Goldenthal is a hack who sometimes gets lucky.
he
And
did a
did you
time.
hear any loud strains in this movie, even though they wouldn't be appropriate? It's because Elliot Goldenthal worked on it.
He did a Time to Kill too.
Yeah. When
Oh, and he
he's
did.
lucky, he's lucky. But when he's not, you realize how shitty he is. This man
Yeah.
has an Oscar in his picture.
What did he get the Oscar for?
I don't know.
Let's see.
Probably a movie.
Oh, I think it was for Frida. Oh,
Well,
actually, I
you
think
know what? If it was Frida, I give him credit. What was it for?
no, I think yeah, it looks like it was for Frida. Um, let's see.
He's great when he's great, but he
Yeah,
is the fucking worst when he's not. So I realize for time, we are going to talk about Alien Resurrection, and then we're going to end this for tonight.
yeah, we completely violated our time slots that we agreed on.
That's okay. It happens. Alien Resurrection, directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet. Jean-Pierre Jeunet is one of the best French directors of all time, one of the best film directors of all time. He made City of Lost Children. He made A Very Long Engagement. He made Delicatessen. He made Amelie. He also made this piece of shit. And it was because of his time working on this that, as he said, I don't know why they put me on this movie. I guess they wanted to have me on the movie because of the fact that I was a famous director, but I don't like working on Hollywood movies, and I will never work on a Hollywood movie again.
Ian, real quick, we did not give Aliens 3 a rating.
Oh, Alien 3 is a solid. Okay. Theatrical cut is a 3 out of 10, 3 out of 5 if I'm being kind. Somewhere between 2.5 and 3 out of 5, right there in the middle. Um Alien the 3 of the assembly cut is a solid 4 out of 5.
Okay. I haven't seen the assembly cut, but I would agree 3 out of 5 for Aliens 3. Um,
Yeah.
it's still got, like some solid performances. You can tell the parts are there, but I think it just like it loses some points for simply following aliens.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
moving on to 1997's Alien Resurrection. As we said, directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, written by Ronald Shusett and Joss Whedon. That's right, everyone's favorite, Joss Whedon. Remember when we liked him, when it was okay to like him before he came out to be the creepiest motherfucker on the planet? Remember that? I do. You know what? He's less creepy than Jeffrey Jones. Don't look it up. If you don't know, you don't know, and that's fine. You also don't know about Stephen Hopkins from Seventh Heaven, and that's fine too. Don't look it up. I know you're going to, but I'm telling you not to.
Ian's just like fuck your childhood.
Alien 3, of course, returning actress Sigourney Weaver. This movie has a fucking stellar cast rewatching this movie. You've got this weird mix of like Hollywood character actors, for people who just apparently love to touch the butt, and and French character actors from Jean-Pierre Jeunet's just like crew. You get horror icons like Brad Dourif. You get the guy who plays the panicky guy and everything, aka Leland Orser. And you get Raymond Cruz, who most of you will now know from Breaking Bad. But as a person who grew up in a military conservative household, I still know him as Dean Chavez from the Tom Clancy movies. Yes,
What
I grew up in a military conservative household. Can you tell? No. The answer is no.
I'm trying to remember what was it? I think the first time I saw this dude was in Come on, tell me I'm right. Tell me I'm right. Yeah, it was The Substitute.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was good in that too.
This is like one of the best like character actor
Yeah, because you
casts
got
of all
Winona Ryder, you
time.
got Dominic Pignon, you have Ron Perlman, you have Gary
Fucking Ron
Doudin, Michael
Perlman.
Wincott, Dan Hedaya, Brad Dourif, Leland Orser, Raymond Cruz. This cast is insane. It is fucking insane that this movie sucks so much,
I disagree.
and Michael likes it so much.
I don't like love it, but
Remember, the
I
next time Michael
sure as
gives you an
shit
opinion on something, Michael likes this movie.
I sure as shit don't hate it. Like it's like so we I've said this before when we in our version of this discussion that is now like lost to the ether.
Oh,
But
and Tom Woodruff Jr. also plays one of the lead alien, by the way, the special effects artist. And this is the first, if I remember, this is the first alien film actually done by Studio 80i officially. And you know what? Yeah, aliens look fucking great.
they do look great.
Yeah.
They look pretty fucking awesome. Um, and so like what I was gonna say is the fact that we have all these great character actors helps to like elevate the material, I think, and also helps to create more solid delivery of the lines
Yeah, even if the lines
and
aren't
makes
great, the cast delivers it.
exactly. And so but back when we were talking about aliens and we were talking about one of the things that makes it so strong is like all the little performances and all the little idiosyncrasies that the cast throws in there and how their deliveries of like even if they only get like one or two lines they still like do them so well that they still stick with you when you think about the whole alien franchise there aren't because there's a lot of Alien movies. How many are there now? There's like eight or nine of them.
There is, if we're not counting MVP, there's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven.
Okay, so if counting the AVP, there's nine.
Yeah.
So when you think about all these movies that did try to replicate what Aliens did by having these like badass characters who have their own like little quirks and they've got their own um like little iconic like lines and little bits about them that make you like them even though they might be doomed. I still feel like Aliens Resurrection probably gets like the closest to that. Probably like Aliens Resurrection and Prometheus.
Prometheus is a significantly better movie than Alien Resurrection, but we'll get to that in the second show.
I think it is, but at the same time, that's still not saying that I'm wrong.
Yeah, I know. I completely understand that. The cast carries this movie, and there are moments in this movie. I mean, of course, everyone who knows this movie knows about the basketball scene
Right.
where Ripley just like brought out all sorts of things about me that I didn't know about. But there you are.
Is it that you
Um,
can't lay off the tall ones? Is it that it?
well, it kind of goes either he's either really it's either tall or really short. It's very odd. But but that's also I mean Winona Ryder's in the movie too, so that makes a lot of sense. Um, but yeah,
So Ian,
everyone is about the
what
basketball
makes you
scene.
hate this though?
The script is lame.
Mhm.
Um, the scenes there are certain scenes are they're just stupid. Like the whole thing at the end with the with Brad Dourif, like being like, "Oh, and it's your baby." It's like, what the fuck are we doing?
He's
What
insane.
the fuck am I? No, it's not. There's insane and there's Brad Dourif insane, and this is Brad Dourif not being reeled in at all. Bro, you
Yeah.
are not a killer doll in this movie. You are a human. Are you not aware of this?
And there's like
His
kind of
performance is
hints.
terrible in this movie. And he can't do a bad performance. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? You were in a Rob Zombie's Halloween being awesome. Where the
So
fuck is that here?
we can probably so when we get to Prometheus at some point, you have to say though, in the history of this franchise, these were not necessarily like the dumbest scientists.
They were up there. I mean, it's
Is there
literally there's
you
literally a
you
moment
know
in the
what I'm talking
director.
about though.
There's a moment in the oh yeah, but there's a moment in the director's cut where you find out that Wayland Yutani was bought up by Walmart, which makes so much sense. Oh yeah, the director's cut is terrible. It's actually worse.
I'm glad I'm not gonna seek this one out.
And don't
I haven't
worry,
seen that
because
one.
the special effects animator who did the CGI is Kitov, who, as you know from his work as a director on Catwoman, clearly got better.
It's overtime.
You know what I
But
will say though? You got the
what?
composer for Beavis and Butthead, so that's pretty
Nice.
legit.
Um, but no, like there are a lot of things I think to like about this movie. Like you're talking about the basketball scene.
Oh yeah,
Um,
credit there because she did that shit for real.
yeah, she did that shit for real. Um, I liked Brees. I liked Johnner, who's kind of like a proto Jane from Firefly.
Oh, and we got to put one in for the cinematographer, Darius Kanji, who made Taylor Swift's "Look What You Made Me Do" video. He
Is
also
that
made The Lost City of C and Okja and Uncut Gems, amongst other movies, and Seven.
I
But I'm a
still
smartass, so I was going to cite the Taylor Swift video.
I was about to say, is that your favorite Taylor Swift video?
It's kind of a cool video, I'm not gonna lie.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's basically about the fact that she kind of got screwed over by her producer, and it's why she re-recorded all of her own songs because she was basically getting scammed by her own record label. And she found
Uh,
out that if she recorded all of her own music, she would actually get the rights back to it. And they never thought she would do it. And they laughed her off, and she re-recorded all of her own music because why now she owns her entire catalog.
yeah,
So you know what?
that part I did know,
That's
but
pretty fucking cool.
that's yeah.
That's
I don't
that's
know.
that's like the biggest cojones I have seen on a white blonde woman.
Well, we know you can't lay off the tall ones, so
Well, there you are.
yeah, it brings it full circle. But I also want to say I did like the underwater scene
Oh,
with
the
the
underwater scene was
alien.
fantastic.
I thought that was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
once again, back to the cinematography. This movie is fucking beautiful. Now, did they think when they had their actors underwater for long periods of time while just kind of giving them oxygen between shots and hoping it would work? And then when the Ron Perlman knocked his fucking head out and was actually unconscious during that scene because they thought to throw actors in there without stunt doubles for these long periods of time? No, they didn't think that. So they almost killed Ron Perlman?
Or Ron.
I know. How was he going to pee on his hands when he shook Donald Trump's hand when he eventually meets him? How was he going to do that if he was dead?
We almost lost that.
I know.
Fuckers.
This is a real thing that he said, and I applaud him for it. If he ever had to shake his hand, he would make sure that he peed on it first.
Okay, so
He's kind of a weirdo.
let's so you do like the cinematography.
Yeah, the movie
You
is
do you do like the cast.
yeah. It's just the screenplay is stupid. The story is stupid. And apparently Joss Whedon, I do not give him a bit of credit because every movie that he's on that's bad, he always blames everyone else, even though he's the sole writer on this movie. So maybe it's just you, Joss. Maybe you made a shitty movie. Just saying. And maybe you're just a fucking pervert now. And nowadays people don't yell at me when I get mad at you and bitch about you on a podcast, Joss Whedon. Firefly was 20 years ago. 22 years ago, Joss. And you know what? The Serenity movie kind of sucks. It's a good movie, but there's a reason. Maybe there's a reason that your one season show is the one that everyone remembers best about you. Fucking hack. So back to what I was talking about.
Okay. Ian, what else don't you like about this movie?
That's about it, honestly. Because the
'Cause,
acting is fine, minus Brad Dourif.
yeah.
It's just the dialogue is really stupid, and it's really hard to like the characters outside of the performances. Because you know what? You can drop a knife in a paralyzed man's leg, but that's still an infected fucking knife. And I'm sorry. We saw Jonah or whatever the hell his name was. That man does
Johnner.
not look like a man who knew how to clean his weaponry after he was done with it. So that man, so don't worry. Um,
He's keeping it
don't
clean,
worry, buddy.
man.
You got all sorts of infections now. Yeah, more infections from there than from the alien acid. Although I will say, fuck, I forgot his name. I'm sad
So,
now. Like
so,
rewatching it, the I will say my favorite character is Vreese, played by
mhm.
Dominic Pignon. Even if he
Yeah.
thinks that's what an American accent sounds like, and he doesn't.
Wait,
But
he was supposed to be American in that?
I think he was.
Jesus.
But he
Okay.
is extremely French.
I was about, yeah, that's
He is
hmm.
a Jean-Pierre Jeunet regular since all the
maybe
way back in
uh,
Delicatessen.
maybe he was paying us back for terrible French accents.
Do not, I'm going to tell everyone out there because I know, and this is not to undermine anybody. I know a lot of the people who listen to us, a lot of people who watch us, and a lot of people who are following social media kind of stick with genre cinema. They kind of stick with their sci-fi, their horror, their superhero movies. If you have not seen anything by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, do not let this movie dictate your opinion on him. Go out and watch his movies. This is the one movie that this man has made that is not a fucking masterpiece. He is one of the best directors of all time. And if you have an issue with subtitles, deal with it. Because, yeah, like this man is iconic.
I feel like we're getting more people are getting over like subtitles,
We are.
especially, you know,
Anime has helped a lot with that.
yeah. Plus, Parasite
Yeah, no.
winning Best Picture.
Oh,
Like,
no.
I think there's, a lot more acceptance of it.
I mean,
But,
look at Amelie. Look at the acclaim that movie got when it came out. That really kickstarted his career, at least in America.
so is Vreese your favorite?
Recently, my favorite character in the movie.
Right. That scene where he's putting together the gun.
God, I feel so bad for him. That scene
Yeah.
is fucked.
I'm glad he lived though.
I know. I mean, who do you expect? Santa Claus?
Like I did not expect him to fucking live. R.I.P. Christie
Yeah.
for
But you know
sacrificing
what? For
himself.
everything we know about him, fuck that guy.
Just fuck everybody.
No, for everything we've known about that man in real life and why he got kicked off CSI, fuck Gary Jordan. He is a
Yeah, I
piece
heard
of
a little bit about
shit.
that. It's it's uh it's like fucking tragic how many people just like tank their goddamn careers.
What, Joss Whedon? What? I'm sorry. Well, I sneezed. I sneezed and it sounded like Joss Whedon is an asshole.
he he had so much lineup.
I
Fuck.
will give one thing to Durden,
Hmm.
because when we see people and we look at how they are now, you don't we forget what can cause that. We are going to get into a heavy subject for a second. Daryl Durden, because we talk about him, we criticize him. The man had his drug problems. He had a lot of drug problems, like heroin, cocaine, ecstasy, prescription drugs. He had a lot of issues. He has a lot of issues. His brother, when he was six, his older brother was murdered in 1973 while he was on vacation in Haiti at age 21. He was pushed to his death off a motel balcony on a high cliff. That case is still unsolved. I can understand that. If you're a 6-year old and you have to go through that, there's shit that's going to affect people in ways that they don't know, they don't remember. I know you and I have both been through things like that to an extent. And while it's easy for people to say, oh, just push past it and be a better person because of it, don't let it hold you back, people are going to be affected by these things in possibly the best or the worst possible ways. And while it does not excuse the actions of him, we can't pretend there's not some kind of impact on those actions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I know there are people who will tell me, oh, you're a devil's advocate, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, we need to look at people and we need to look at everything about them, good and bad. There are some people who are genuinely just awful, like Joss Whedon, who grew up in just with a silver spoon, who grew up with every pleasure they could from Hollywood. And then there are people like Durden, whose life was just traumatic. And yes, he's an actor. People say, "Oh, he was a celebrity. He was on one of the biggest shows of all time." But it's like You gotta look at the person and not the roles that you see them on TV, be it good or bad. I'm sorry to bring it down a little bit,
It's all right.
but let's talk about this. So we're wrapping the first half of the Alien Retrospective Circuit 42. Alien Resurrection for me, it's a 2.5. It's not the worst movie that we're going to talk about during this podcast.
No, it's not. Uh, I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
That's fair.
Yeah, like like we're talking about the effects look a lot better. There's definitely a better blend of the CGI and practical. I thought it was interesting to see like a because like part of the franchise is touching upon, like how, the company, how Wayland Yutani thinks that they're going to basically domesticate the alien species and use them for their, bioweapons division. And even though this isn't necessarily Wayland Yutani doing it, it's the government. It's interesting to see some of that put into action and to see the kind of experiments that they do and the coldness of it. And there are things that obviously evolve with the characters. Ripley is like an alien hybrid this time around. You get to see. I like to see like the evolution and to get the sense of like the time moving throughout the franchise. And I think that's one of the cool things about it. About every time that like Ripley goes under, she's almost like the Winter Soldier, just like leaping through time and
Oh,
like
and I
coming
will
into
say,
these.
Sigourney Weaver's fucking fantastic in this movie.
She is.
Like, honestly, like for the longest time, even the other Alien movies, I think this is one of the standouts for her
Mhm.
because you get to see a Ripley who's just seen it all and it's like, nah, fuck it, we have to take care of this. Also, I'm just gonna throw this out there. This is very personal. That the scene with her and Winona Ryder, that set off a lot of things in Ian's head and developing brain. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Um,
That's neither
yeah,
here nor
and
there.
this was still like so when you think about Ripley as a character, so she's in the first one, she kind of gets thrust into like this leadership role, even though she's still, I think she was like still second in command, but she becomes like the final girl, and you didn't like realize that going into it. Like if you just look at it from fresh eyes, you would not have necessarily assumed that she was going to be the one to make it out of it at the end. And then in the second one, she's kind of like steering these other characters around. She's got the experience under her belt. She's also got like the fire of that maternal instinct driving her. In the third one, she was kind of done. Like she didn't want to have shit to do with any of it.
It felt like Sigourney Weaver at that point with the Alien franchise.
Yeah,
If you know anything about what she was feeling about the Alien franchise at that point, she wanted to die
she's probably
and be
like,
done
fuck
in that
this.
movie.
So that kind of
She
like came
only did the movie if she
across.
would die.
And so with the fourth one, she's like a clone. And even though she is like this alien hybrid, she still this is still when you think about the whole franchise, this is one of like still one of her more complete performances.
Yeah, it's just
You get
really
to see her as like very vulnerable, but you also get to see her being very cold, like badass. You get to see her being, kind of playful and humorous.
to
So that's one of the things that helps elevate this film for me.
yeah, to wrap it up for this first half of the Alien friends of the Alien podcast. She People talk about archetypes and they talk about, the character operanda, they talk about all these different things. She created a legacy. Like when you go back and watch the first Halloween, people talk about, even though I love Halloween, people talk, oh, Laurie was the one who got it done. She's the one who beat Michael. And I'm like, have you watched that movie? If Donald Pleasance hadn't shown up at the end, she would just be dead, and so would the kids.
Yeah.
with Ripley in Alien, we Alien Ripley created Sarah Connor. Ripley created Furiosa. Ripley created the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman. Ripley created the strong female character in the best possible way. And we've seen directors of talent and directors of lesser talent attempt to do the same thing to various results. But without that, you would not have the strong female character in this kind of action role, in this kind of heroic role, without Ripley. Because you didn't have it at all before. And Ripley not only is a character and a fantastic character, Ripley is a legacy of the powerful female characters in action and genre cinema.
Yeah,
And that's all I have to say about that.
you can't deny the impact.
Yeah.
So Ian, where can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook as Ian McIntosh, very cleverly named. Instagram, the same place. But more importantly, where can people find you, Mr. Michael?
You can find me at Blue Sky at Four Ducks in a Man Suit, and you can find me on Instagram at Four Ducks Pilot a Man Suit.
You can find Circuit 42 on Blue Sky. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. Because unfortunately, despite the Zuckerberg of it all, we had such a large audience on Facebook in particular, weirdly enough, that we couldn't, that it's like, fuck, we have to go back, don't we? But of course you can,
How could we deny the people all this?
I know, all this magistry. And you can, of course, watch us on YouTube. Let's just our handsome visages, you know. You can listen to us on Spotify. You can listen to us on Apple. You can listen to us on or Apple Music. You can find us on pretty much every major. Apparently, I didn't really even realize pretty much every major podcast platform. Um, but of course, you know, hope you all enjoyed part one. Can't wait to see you on part two. And with that, have a great night, everybody.
Game over.
It's game over, man. It's game over.